All right, here we are. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Simon. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. You've been a pleasure to talk to in our previous conversation, and you've been a pleasure to research. And when I was looking through you, there was one thing that caught my eye that was a little bit out of it. But on your blog, you have three words. I think it's entrepreneur. There's another one, and then there's pragmatic. And I love that word. And I would love to hear how it ended, like front and center on a very important piece of your digital history. What does the word mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot.
Right. The universe sings.
I think it's probably the main thing in my life in the maybe 15 last years. Really important in my work life. And yeah, I built my company 12 years ago with a friend of mine. And yeah, pragmatism, it was at the center. I was a lot into startup just before. The spirit was, okay, the more you work, the better. I was not okay with that. I've seen a lot of friends, entrepreneurs, doing burnout. This was frightening. So
Mm,
I decided to find another way. I read the 4 Hour Weeks for Tim
by Tim
Ferriss.
Ferriss.
I don't like this book because it's not ethic at all. But I think I never like the answer, but I like very much the question he asked. It was very inspiring, and I just tried to find new answer to all the questions he asked, and which are very good. I bought this book to my associate a few months before building the company, and we have kept that in mind for a long time. It's a very important word, and I'm still focusing on it. I'm quite minimalist. I'm not really
I
like
think
to
how.
own a lot of things. I like to focus. I try to do less things, to remove things, to not to do something if I can, and I like to ask myself if I can not to do something. It's not an easy question, but I like that. In our work life, it allows us to do our company very different than the concurrent competitor. Just because we had a very different strategy because of that. Because from the very beginning, we say, okay, we are not going to work a lot. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. We have time. We are not going to work the weekend. We create a rule between us. We have each other the right to forbid the other to work like tomorrow. So if I saw my associate tired, I can say, okay, no, you're not going to work tomorrow.
I love this.
Uh,
I love this. I thought I was the only one doing it, but I'm the first to tell people on my team, like, take time off, take the next week off, take the time for yourself.
yeah, I think it's very good, and we are still doing that. And yeah, so yeah, that's a bit
Mm,
what pragmatism is for me.
that's really cool. A couple questions. Why is the 4 hour work week not ethical? I've never read it. I know about it. I know like what it's about, but I've never. I don't know everything about it.
I haven't read it for a long time, but he easily report the work to other people around him. I think most of people in the company hate him at the end because his behavior is probably boring for everyone. He give work to people in Madagascar or a lot of countries like that. Yeah,
Mm,
I don't like that. What we wanted to do is to try to have this rhythm of life, but allow every people we are working with to have the same, because it's easy to use someone to do that, and it's not the spirit, our spirit at all. So
yeah,
we
I
try
get that. Yeah, I get
to
that.
inspire every people we are working with.
Mm, yeah, you're taking the like the questions that he asks and of how you structure your work, but you want it to be applied in a way that is more fair and that is not it, the way you're describing it. His approach seems quite self-centered, selfish, focused on himself as like the star of the show, kind of, which is also something that I hate about like the CEO cult. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you have your view of being pragmatic.
Yeah.
What in the trend of entrepreneurs, of digital professionals, do you think a lot of people could do that would make them more pragmatic, that would make them more fulfilled, that would make them more, because there's a lot of like bullshit kind of trends, you know what I mean? Do you have any that come to mind?
There are some tentative to do that, like lean startup. You're maybe heard
Yeah.
about that. Is a technique to start startup with pragmatism, but it's not necessarily a good rhythm for life either, because you can work a lot and do lean startup. And so, yeah, you are going to build your startup fast, but maybe you are going to have a burnout just after, and it's still not good. Probably, there is a lot of there are a lot of factors like funding. Most of the time, funding give you a lot of pressure, and most of the time it's not very good for the founder. You are less free, etc. So we decided to say no to funding and to create the company ourselves. And yeah, it's a good idea to chat with the associate and understand it's going to last a few years, and it's not a weekend or a week. And yeah, you have to be comfortable and have good idea for years. Of course, it's very frightening to start a company, and you want to the company start very fast and work very in a short time. But most of the time, it's not the case, and you have to be okay. Okay, you are going to do some pivots. You are going to start again to I don't know, a lot of things, but probably not the first plan you had. Our company is not doing what we planned at the beginning, and it's most of the time the case if you speak with an entrepreneur.
So what led you here? How did do you remember like the first memorable, because you've become quite successful in your various endeavor. What were your first steps where you started clicking and where you started to become the entrepreneur that you would then become? What were your early like professional days like?
Maybe the first one I have is the last year of engineering school in computer science. We have some a few weeks project, and I really like that. The teacher say, okay, what you want. We have a project, and we can do what we want during in a few weeks. And we work a lot and learn a lot of things, and it's a wonderful experience. And it starts to look like what I think startup is. Yeah, it starts to be interesting. After that, I'm doing conference as a developer, and it starts to be interesting. I like to teach, to share what I learn. After that, I discover Startup Weekend. It's an international event where you play to start a startup in a weekend. I think at the time I'm the guy who have done the most of. I don't have the record now, but 10 years ago I have the record of the number of participation of Startup Weekend in France. Like 10, and after I become coach and facilitator in Startup Weekend. So, and it's really interesting because in my school, I start to understand that entrepreneurship is not for me, because nobody is speaking about entrepreneurship. Yes, it's a bit taboo. I start to understand it can be for me. And I really like at this moment to be developer for startup, but I have a lot of frustration because sometimes I see the founder have a strategy and I don't agree, but I can't test mine. I just have to follow the founder strategy, and yeah, I never know if my idea is good or not, and I want to try to. And Startup Weekend is a wonderful way to start that. To do a lot of mistake, step by step, participation after participation. I let the team have more control, and at the end, they can do almost everything, and I'm just a team
Mm,
member, and this worked very well. And I'm very lucky to have this experience before starting my company because it was very inspiring. After that, I have been a CTO in Kickstarter like in France. And yeah, it was very interesting to discover a more bigger company, a startup in France and understand how it works. Yeah, and after that, all the thing about 4 hour work week, etc., pragmatism, and try to reverse the startup spirit and and the beginning of the idea to start a non-startup company, okay,
yeah.
and probably do the opposite of what people do in this world. Okay, you are working a lot. Okay, I'm not going to do that. You are going to to look for funding. Okay, I'm not going to do that.
You really think for yourself. I love that about you, and I could already see it before we talked or before we were getting in this conversation. The fact that you had this experience during the startup weekends of understanding so early on in your career that that you're part of the team and that you should quote unquote use them, or more specifically, like not guide them, not direct them, but like take them by the hands and build something together. It's something that I know I struggled with for like 4 or 5 years, and that a lot of other entrepreneurs struggle with as well, because we see ourselves kind of like, all right, I'm the CEO, I'm the superhero, I know everything, and you guys are just here to do what I say. And it says a lot about you that you were able to realize it so early on. You were what, 20, like between 20 and 25, probably?
Yeah. I'm starting
Same.
my company at 28, so yeah, a few years before.
You seem very, very self-aware. You seem like you know yourself very well and that you can listen to yourself very well and your surroundings and how you fit in. Is that something that was always the case? Is that something that you had to actively work on?
I think progressively I started to look for freedom and to remove all the constraints I can have. And it's probably really linked to pragmatism. Yeah, I think my recent life is to recent, like 10 or 20 years
Yeah.
before. It's a research of freedom and remove the constraints I can have. I don't like to own things I will have to repair, or I don't know. I don't want to have a lot of things planned in the future. So my agenda is most of the time almost empty, and I like that. I like to wake up in the morning and don't know what I'm going to do, and it's very, very important. So I can spend a lot of energy to try not to do something. I'm not sure I'm working less at the end, but it's more comfortable for me.
Because if I'm comparing what you're telling me, what you're showing to myself, I've had so much friction with myself of like learning to love myself, learning to do what I'm really meant to do and not what my ego tells me. And so to hear someone's story like yours, where like it's happened step by steps. Like you were at school and then you liked doing projects and then you did startup weekends and then you thought, maybe I can do like this for my life, and then you became an entrepreneur and it worked for you. Is there anything you could share anyone listening to this about like how to make themselves more free, about how to make their life like lighter and more fulfilling and easier to live through, and in a way that they're still happy and feel successful?
First of all, I have to say it was not as easy people can understand with what I said. Of course, I've done a lot of mistake. I was afraid of doing a lot of things. I don't like
Mm,
risk. So if my parkour look risky, it's probably because you don't understand the situation I had at this moment. But most of the time it wasn't risky in my point of view. For example, when I started my company, I was sure to be able to find easily a job if the company doesn't work, and it was really, really easy. So funding a company was not a risk at all for me, and the only thing I will do is to have a better CV at the end and be maybe most known after the company. So no risk at all in my point of view. So it's not a risk. Secondly, I think I needed examples to make these choices, because I can't have this idea like when I was at school, because it was impossible for me to imagine that. For example, at school, I can think I will build the company. Everything I heard say, okay, you are a developer and you are not going to build a company. It's not for you. And okay, and I have to go in startup world and see a lot of entrepreneurs who are not very good and build a company and be able to say, okay, maybe I can do that too, because they are not much better than me. I know how to code, and they all are frustrated not to be able to code. I can read the same book as them and try to do something.
One thing that pops out when I think of you is transversal skills. It's skills that you learn someplace, and even though you don't use the exact same skills, some of it can be used transversely. I don't even know if that's a word, into something else. Like you did with coding, and then you did music, which by the way, I love your songs. And then now you're doing generative art. And I think there's this thing with adults where we have the curiosity, but we have so many fears and so many I don't know, like defenses and sensitivities, and we are a little bit afraid to kind of put ourselves in the shoes of someone who learns again and who has to start from the beginning. But what is fantastic about you is that you learned a lot of things through school and then through your business, and then you applied that to music, and now you're applying this to generative art. What can you say about this, about your own experience as a eternal explorer and adventurer of life and the arts?
It wasn't a plan at all. It was improvised, and it's just a succession of small steps. And I haven't learned to code and I don't know, learn to play music, etc. to do Gen art at the end. Of course not. I am very lucky to be able to create the condition to have time very early in my life, and it's a huge privilege, and I'm very lucky to be able to do that. And so I have time to learn things. Sometimes I spend 2 weeks on something and okay, I doesn't like it and go to another thing. And sometimes I can spend a year or 2 or 3 on something I like very much and dig this skills or this domain as much as I can. So yeah, it wasn't a plan at all, because it can be frightening if you say, okay, if I want to do like this guy, I have to have a plan on 5 years and be able to know where I go. No, it's not that at all.
You're basically like a school case Buddhist because you go through life, you explore, you have fun, and you don't seem to be very attached to the outcome. And so you go where your explorations go and you learn the skills that you need to learn. And like, this is one of the most important life skills that anyone can have, because we all tend to, we're humans and we're social animals. And so we care about what other people think. And so we create this image, this ego in our mind of who we should become, and we let that guide us. So I'm going to tell you about my experience as an entrepreneur. For me, as a like 24-year-old wanting to be an entrepreneur, it was all about the money, the women, and the toys for later. It was like, all right, I'm going to do this because it's going to get me there. And I hated the steps, but I thought, all right, but I'm going to be happy there. And so I'm going to do what is required. But it does seem to show that you care about the process, that you like the exploration, that you like the learning and the day-to-day thing. And that's like, it makes my heart tingle. It's beautiful to see.
I have to say, it's not maybe as magic as you can see. Sometimes I can have a long-term goal, of course. I try not to focus too much on that because, of course, it can create frustration because you can not be able to do it. But he can create motivation. So it's a balance. Sometimes it's great to have a strong goal, and sometimes okay, maybe I have just this idea in mind, but if it does happen, I doesn't care too much. And yeah, the process is interesting, and I really try to like all the step.
Well, it's pretty apt that the next thing I want to talk about is success. I wanted to ask you what the word success means to you, and if you feel like you've achieved it or are achieving it right now.
I have to say I'm not very comfortable to be able. I had success. I'm not that much a competitor, and so I'm not looking for that. I guess I like to share. Competition is not there, and I kind of maybe it's an error to associate success to competition, but yeah, it's not what I'm looking for.
That's interesting. It's really interesting because that you'd close on it might be narrow to associate success and competition. I think that's what we do. I think that's a society thing, our society thing of like you have succeeded if you have beat your direct competitors. And to me, you are successful from what I see of you, from like the joy you derive from the things you do, from um, well, even like the objective success of your business that allows you to have freedom and all of that. And that's why I phrase it that way. Like, what does it mean to you? Because in a perfect world, we all have our own definition of success, of being free, of doing the things that we love every day, of being able to have an empty calendar, for example. Like that to me qualifies as success. And so if someone came to you right now, they're 25, they're thinking of starting a business, maybe they already have like a problem that they want to solve, what advice do you give them? What are the, like, I don't know, 3 points or 5 points that any entrepreneur you think should pay really attention to, that should be like their North Star that guides their every day?
It depends what you want to do. If you want to do something a bit like me, probably have in mind it's a marathon and never a sprint. A company to build a company is a few years at minimum. You are going to pivot. Don't have an idea in love to be in love to an idea because it's going to change a lot. And ideas have most of the time no value. A lot of people have the same idea at the same time as you, and the only thing is your the way you are working on it and the decision you are going to make. Sometimes it's a good idea to do things in another way. Uh, for example, when we start our company, the advice is to work a lot, and I'm pretty sure it's a bad idea. And of course, you have to work, but not a lot because you are going to have a burnout 3 months later. Your company is still not working, and that's stupid because you have no energy to work on it after that, and yeah, you're going to fail. So that's an interesting normed question. Yeah, it's a good idea, and yeah, I like to question norms in general in my life.
I love that. It is also one of the things that I say the most. It's I usually go back to Elon Musk's first principles thinking. Take in all the data you want, but make it your own. Ask people for advice, ask them what they think, but you can't just take the advice at face value. You can't just listen to what other people say because you're going to have one person say this and another person say that and another person say that. And all of it has value, only after you've processed it and made it your own, because otherwise you're not being your best self, you're being their self, and you're not going to be good at that. So yeah, I and this is advice that can never be said enough. It will need to be repeated for this generation of entrepreneurs and 5 generations down the line and 10 generations down the line.
I just can add this difference can create an advantage very easily. For example, our company is a training company in computer science, and most of the time, this kind of company are built by resource human people, and we had no idea about human resource because it's not our culture at all, and it wasn't the first plan to build a training company. So no idea of how it's working. So no idea of what people are doing to communicate to. Okay, so we did on our own, and like the model we have with startup, so web, social hacking, some stuff like that. And in fact, we discovered later that companies in this world are used to send a paper catalog, very big paper catalog to a lot of company, and we never thought about that because it's not our culture. And so just because we are different, we did a lot of things differently. Because we did a big pivot, we before have an idea, have the idea to create a training company. We was working on kind of job boards, and it was needed to create communities. And so we have now this doesn't work, and so now we have a training company with strong communities on the web, and it's quite unique. It wasn't the plan at all.
Yeah, man, I actually appreciate that you brought this back into my life. I haven't followed too much. I was obviously here for like the early days of generative art, and so I experienced it from a spectator point of view. But like you coming back to it reminded me of my days playing with P5GS and all of that stuff. So that was really nice. I would love to. One of the really interesting things that you started to mention during our introduction conversation was about networking and gatekeeping in arts, which is something that I had also been introduced to in a video, where basically a group of people observed a lot of data with regards to the art world and with artists' journeys, and they identified that, of course, the skill and the quality of the art you create matters, but the defining component that would dictate an artist's success is pretty much who they know and who they meet along the way and the doors that it opens for them. And it's something that you seem to have some experience with, and I would love to for you to explain what the process has been like for you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not aware of this study, but it looked interesting. It kind of reflects what I can see. I have a weird journey in art because I'm coming from entrepreneurship and coding. So, and I've no idea about art when I start. I don't care about art history. I don't care about museum. And yeah, it was 2 years ago. And yeah, so art mean nothing. Or I like to play music. I'm playing guitar. I publish some track on Spotify just to have fun. But that's all. Almost 2 years ago, I want to learn to draw with a pen and a paper, simply. I like to be off the screen, to be off the computer, and just to go on a coffee and draw something, to be able to do something. So I'm going to ask to artist friend to teach me, and she starts to teach me how to draw. I see I have no skills in that, and I have everything to learn. But quickly, I want to do geometry because I love math, and there I have skills. So I start to see, okay, if I do something with geometry, I can do something more easily than trying to draw some animals or something like that, where I have no skills at all. So quickly, I have a problem. I'm very bad to draw some stuff with my hand. So I migrate to Procreate and an iPad because it's easier to draw perfect circles. But at that time, I say, okay, but what about drawing, 100 circles? And my friends say, okay, I don't know how to do that. And so quickly I migrate to vector program and then to P5, a library, pretty well, very used in GenArt. And we can describe it for non-developer people as a Microsoft Paint with code, something like that. Most of the function you have is something you have in Paint, so you can just draw simple stickers, rectangle, etc. And yeah, it's very simple. And a big part of the GenArt you can see is done with that anyway. I'm playing with that. So first started in Ikeknunk on Tezos. Then I discover very early FXH, and is where I discovering GenArt. And I don't know if people know what is GenArt, but maybe you can explain it with a seed and random, etc. Because random is very important in GenArt.
I like the direction you were going in, and if you can eventually go back to the networking part, because I'm really intrigued by that,
Yeah.
then it's perfect, and we can definitely talk about.
I try to keep that
exactly.
in mind.
Yeah, please do. Please do. But it eventually, like, your journey eventually leads there, because you're dropping a collection with a very important player in this space, and so you have experienced this firsthand. And yeah, after, if you want, we can take a minute to explain exactly what generative art is.
A few months after I start to learn to draw, I'm focusing on GenArt, so it's at the end of the year 2021. And GenArt is the idea of working on a script called generator, and you put it on the blockchain, and people can mint editions. Most of the time, the number of edition is defined as in the contract at the beginning. And when someone mints an edition, the edition is generated on demand with information in the introduction. So it's a surprise for the collector and also for the artist. As artist, of course, I can generate as many as edition as I want to test my script, but I don't know which edition is going to be dropped. And in GenArt, we are used to use a lot of random, so color are random, shape random, position, etc. So there are so many randoms, and you can guess what is going to happen. It's not just like dice, or sometimes 6 is going to happen. Oh no, it's more complex than that. So you can guess what is going to happen. Most of the GenArt are coders, mathematicians, physicians, or some people like that. Is what I like. And so I start to do that, and network start to be important at that moment. Not most of the not all the time, because the last platform where I drop is a blind curation, so they don't know the name. So network is probably quite replaced directly, but in fact, a network can help in a way to understand what the platform expects. So it may be important, but not that much in this platform, and we could talk about that later. But in some platform, the name can be important because, of course, if the big platform assign a big artist, there is going to be some hype on the project, and this is important. It's very hard to understand how useful is the networking in art, because sometimes you can see something very famous have success with pieces which are very understand to see why they are nice, or I don't know. The opposite is also we can also see the opposite. Some unknown people are having a lot of success. So it's not impossible at all, and you have to find your way. But yeah, probably it can help in a way, because you have to yeah, I don't know, if I know artists, I can maybe expect some artists to say, okay, I will buy your work at the drop, and it's very interesting to see to show that, and collector maybe will buy my art because this famous artist
Well,
will buy
got it.
it, etc. So
Yeah.
yeah, it can help, yeah, for sure.
You see it very specifically and very clearly in the NFT space because influencer marketing is predominant and you have one person tweeting that they will participate in this or that drop and then everyone rushes to it without even questioning it. It's like a badge of all right, you've been already validated, and so this gives me value. If you were to start, same question as for the entrepreneur. If you were to, if someone listening to this wants to get started with generative art, where should they start? Like, what is the least effort road to making your first generative art piece?
So maybe same answer. There are a lot of ways to start in Gen Art, and you have to find your way. If you want to have a similar way as mine, probably the easiest way is to learn P5. Start on FXH. It's a wonderful platform to start because it's open, quite easy. Discord is active. Lot of projects. You don't need a community because if you are doing something great, you will, you should be able to sell at a not too bad price and test. It's easy to it's very okay to fail and try again. So you can have a two bad project and the third one is going to work and people doesn't care the two first are bad. Yeah, it probably a very good way to start. Ecosystem is changing a lot currently, and we can see new open platform currently like Alba 256 Art. So now we have many ways to start, and that's better because you have choice, and you can just chat with this platform and see which one is the best for you. P5 and FXH or any open platform is okay.
Where do you draw your inspiration from your art? Can you what is a way that you have to get inspired?
An idea came not from me, from an artist who was forwarding me, Nuderu. He gave me an advice to draw the line between the original position of the dot and the final position of the dot, and it started to look like fur. I like this very much, and yeah, the project take a very new direction at that time. And yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, it's a research like that. In my last test project, it was a collaboration with Mathieu Segre, also the associate of the company we spoke before.
Is that the one dropping in July?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Let's hold off on this one because it's the most
Okay.
important piece. Like we have to create some sort of a cliffhanger. What's and we'll link to it in the description. What's your favorite piece that you've created and what was the process for it and what does it look like now? And if you have a link right now for me so I can check it out and so we can link it later, that would be awesome.
Okay, if I have to show you my best work, in my opinion, really hard to say because every project has a different meaning. Probably if we don't speak about the new one of the most interesting aesthetically was Folardura Bridge because it was very unique because it's currently still the biggest collaboration piece project on FXH. We was 25 artists to participate. I just dropped a simple project on GitHub and asked developer, okay, implement your style. Here is the class you have to fill. And if it's working and not too bad, I will publish it in the project I think the delay was very short and probably it was a mistake, like 10 days or 15 days, very short.
Wow.
Yeah, it was stupid, but okay. And in fact, many more people as expected participate. In my mind, okay, maybe we'll be 3 or 4, and that's fun. And we was 25. Yeah, I met a lot of people with this project, and it was very nice. And you can see a lot of very different style. Even if every artist had the same constraints as the beginning. That's very interesting. Okay, everyone have to draw a bridge, and it's very interesting to see what people did. And I can also speak about Entricada. It's a drop I did with Bright Moments. It's a platform I like a lot. And they love to make the drop physical in real life. And so they create events all around the world to for the drop. And they did an event in New York. So I was the artist of the month in March 2023 for Bright Moment, and they did a huge event in New York in the Lume Studio. There are screen projector on all the wall and on the floor. And so people are immersed in my work. It's really fantastic. When I work on my computer, I all the time see my work, I don't know, like 30 centimeters of height. And I see the picture, and my work is projected on, I don't know, 5 meters wall. It wasn't expected at all. And so it was a very nice surprise. And I love that.
Yeah, I saw the pictures, I think, and it's really impressive. It really, because that's one of the problems with generative art, where it's not easy to consume, and it's not easy to consume in a way that respects the time and effort that went into it for the artist. And so being in your position, having that event where people are actually in your art, a part of it, like it must have been a crazy experience for you as an artist.
And in fact, it's a big problem to know how to consume art. And you can print it, but you can do that if the piece is animated or in 3D, or I don't know. And you can watch it on the screen or on your computer, but you can put it as a screensaver or wallpaper on your screen. But I don't know, you can sometimes buy a frame with a screen inside, but it's not a very mature technology yet, so it's not easy to connect to your NFT wallet. Most of the time they don't have a strong graphic card, so the only thing you can do is to display image. Sometimes video is quite consuming in terms of energy. It's not an easy thing, and I hope people will do some innovation in this space to facilitate that.
All right, let's talk about the drop. So the date is 31st of July?
Yeah, it should be that. And or at the beginning of August.
Okay, tell us about this. Tell us about that process.
So after talking a lot to my friend and associate Mathieu, he started quickly to play with P5 and create generative art too. And at the time, I really wanted to, I don't know, to do a big project and like all in. Okay, now I've learned a lot, and I have to do the best I can do. And probably it was a good idea to do that with a friend. We have better chance if we are two on that, and we are let's do something. The best thing we can do, both of us, and let's see where it's going to go. So we started on July 31st last year. So if the drop is still at this date, it will be at the anniversary of the start. It was a very long journey. Yeah. So as a start, we had to decide what to do. Mathieu at this moment wanted to have something that look physical and play with texture, with realism, etc. And at that time, I would like to play with geometry. And after a few months after, I'm learning shaders is something different than P5, and it's a language spoken by your graphic card. When I learned that, I say, okay, we have to integrate shader in our work because it's going to help us a lot to do everything we want. We are used to work together, so it's not a. Of course, we are going to be able to do that without argument or it's not a problem. We are used to do that. We started like that. Quickly, we decide we are trying to emulate watercolor painting, and it's a nightmare if you are thinking to simulate watercolor with Microsoft Paint. And the first thing we are trying to do is to simulate it, drawing a lot of triangles, almost transparent, and the effect is pretty good. It's a technique developed by Tyler Hobbs, and you can find a nice blog post on his blog. We are trying to fill a simple grids with pen on the side and fill each cell with watercolor. And a bit by mistake, we apply something we call domain warping. Is an effect that add distortion in the image and move a little bit everything. It's not that bad at all. And it's not the plan, because the plan is maybe to try to fill the cell by something, I don't know, with a white pen and try to draw something in the cell on the watercolor. Is the plan. But with domain warping, it looked like water. It looked very organic. And it's not the plan, but we start to like that. And we submitted the product to some platform with one platform in mind, GM Studio, because I love the curation. It's very premium. I think it's maybe the only one platform where I love all the projects they dropped. I love the curation. It's blind most of the time, so they don't know the name. The curation panel don't know the name of the artist. And I love that. It's very unique in the ecosystem. Most of the time they can check the Twitter, etc. And of course, like we said before, maybe the networking can help. And with James Studio, it's blind. So if you're famous or unknown, you have probably the same chance. We are the first project where all the members of the curation panel say yes. It's the first time in the history of James Studio. And we are very happy of that. So the drop will happen the 31st of this month if everything go as I know at the recording time. And we are very, very, very happy of that.
That must be such a, again, like, we're not doing it for the accolades, we're not doing it for the result, but seeing something that you've worked on for 1 year being so wholeheartedly welcomed to a platform that means so much to you, man, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of pressure because we are in a beer market. I don't know if it's a good idea to spend a year currently to work in a project.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
There we go. Then it was a perfect idea.
Yeah. You're right. We both learned a lot because it was very interesting we have different skills, different way to work, and the mix was very interesting because we don't focus on the same thing, and the mix of that was very interesting. And we know how to communicate because we are friends we have been friends for a long time. It was a big challenge because there are not a lot of platforms where it's a good idea to work a year to drop on that, and it could happen that no platform, no, I don't know, let's say premium platform or something like that. It could happen that no premium platform accept us. Yeah, it was a risk during all the whole time.
Yeah, man, that's such a great turn of events. I feel like this is like the perfect place to kind of wrap up this conversation. Can you like give us the last details of the drop, July 31st, Gem Studio? What will be how many editions will there be, and what will be the price? I think are the most important criteria.
Maybe the information I'm going to give are not accurate because it's not
Might change.
absolutely defined yet. But currently we are on 300 editions. The price will be a fair Dutch action from maybe 4 East to .25.
I hope everything sells at 4. That would be the perfect way to cap this up, and you can move on to the next one. Man, I've already thought like a few times I want to get back into P5GS, which is really hard because I don't code. So I'm not just learning P5, I'm also learning JavaScript. So it's a tricky one, and learning the tools. And I was stuck with like I was using Bracket, I think, and I was stuck with it. Couldn't like put out the thing. So, but now you've inspired me to restart again, and I hope that other people are inspired as well. Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah,
Do
maybe
you have
Simon will be
any?
on Netflix very soon.
Who knows? Who knows? It would be possible. I've already thought of doing like a few illustrations because I have these concepts that form as visual things, and I want to maybe use Adobe Illustrator or maybe Procreate to kind of put them into form. But yeah, I would love to one day be able to create a generative art collection. Like that is definitely like a bucket list item, and I think you've put me back on the path for it.
You can maybe have a step just playing with what we call creative coding, and you don't have to necessarily to play with random or which adds some difficulties, and just create something quite nice with P5, and this you can drop this on Tezos, on Object or Theia, or on Ethereum, on Super or Foundation or
Mm,
some platform like that. And it's already a thing. The market is not a lot on that, so probably you are not going to sell that a lot, but it's a good start, and it's maybe a good step because random create a new complexity because you have to you have a lot to seem to manage. You can't
mm,
see all the editions, so you have to predict all the special case that can happen and avoid them. Most of the time artists generate like thousand of edition to be sure it's okay, but surprise can still happen, and there are a lot of
mm.
stories like that
It's a
in the
good
space.
idea. It's a very good idea. Would you use the P5 editor, or would you go the extra step of having your own, like you need to set up the server and having your own software on the computer?
I don't know. Depends of your level, but if you are a beginner, the editor is
That's
uh,
fine.
a lot. Yeah, is enough for a long time.
Okay, perfect.
You are
Thank
not
you.
going
I'll
to
do
to
that.
write a lot of the thing. Uh, AI are not too bad to create P5 code, so you can also use ChatGPT or some technology like that to
Mm,
create some part of the code. They are pretty good to, I don't know, you have to uh, you can say to ChatGPT, please create I don't know 100 rectangles which are red and I don't know
mm,
placed on the grid, and they know pretty well how to do that. So you can find
nice.
inspiration. And
I'm
P5
gonna do
is
that.
very good to learn. On the website there are a lot of book, a lot of resource
Yeah.
to learn. You can also check on a website named Open Processing. It's very similar to the P5 editor, and you can access to the code of a lot of interesting artwork, all in P5 most of the time. And you can check the code and find inspiration. And yeah, that's a very good start.
Thank you so much. I end this feeling inspired and with a clear path ahead of me. So thank you so much. Is there anything else?
Perfect.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
We have spoken about a lot of things, so it's hard to find a conclusion about that. It was a pleasure to share that, and yeah, if it can be interesting for the listeners, is awesome. I guess most of the people who are listening are in Web3, and maybe most of them are aware about GenArt. So let's check the source project on Gem Studio. You can at the time of the publishing of this podcast, you should be able to find a lot of blog posts about this project on our blog. So if you want to know more about this story, the journey, or some technical aspect, you will find more information about that. So it's easy to find my Twitter and check my blog. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to listen it was a pleasure to listen to the previous episode of this podcast, and I'm very grateful to be there today. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, man. Thank you for. I really appreciate you taking the time and yeah, doing the effort of coming on and giving me this shot as well, because you've seen we're just getting started. We're only a few episodes in, and you still agree to do this wholeheartedly and with a huge smile on your face. So thank you.
Right. The universe sings.